Ah yes, theatre. The finest of the arts, barring all the others. Such a great form of performance bears an interesting question. What if it could move? What do you mean it moves already? Hold on, bring that here. I swear the correct segue should be in here somewhere. It's no surprise that theater and film are similar to each other. Both have the fundamental elements of actors, settings, props, lighting, and direction, all while remaining as both visual and auditory mediums. So why not just film a play and put it on screen? Why not just show movies when audiences go to a local theater? We do both of these all the time, with some of these becoming prime entertainment. But there's certainly a better way to allow for film and theater to complement each other than to just cram them together. There are a few differences that allow these mediums to be separate. For one, there's the way in which we, as the audience, view these mediums. When watching theater, an audience member sees the stage wholly, and as such can look anywhere they want. It's almost like you're in the stage's world itself. Because audiences can basically focus on anything on stage, it's the actor's job to bring attention to the dialogue and actions. When watching film, however, an audience's view is typically closer to the action of a scene. Cameras allow for pinpoint focus on certain moments, making it a lot easier for writers and directors to show the audience what they want them to see. However, this strangely specific moving viewpoint can take an audience member out of the world they're watching. Another difference comes from the actors themselves. On screen, actors can act like normal people, because the audience is always at a normal distance from these characters. With actors on stage, audience members can be all over the place, and none of them are anywhere near the action present. So actors need to somehow provide the realistic nuance of a scene, while making actions clear to anyone in the room. To do this, many stage actors have taken on a histrionic acting style, projecting their voices loudly, and their actions somehow even louder. The final and largest difference between the two mediums of film and theater comes not from the writing, directing, acting, nor audience, but from the world surrounding them. It's no secret that theatrical performances don't take place on location. In a typical film, however, studios have the luxury of taking actors out to real places and filming there, providing a much more realistic story through this mise-en-scène. Even beyond the world, minute details like the props actors use need to be bigger on stage than in real life, lest the back of the audience miss what's happening. When you get into the gritty details of these mediums, they start to feel further and further separated. So how do you take the medium of theater and bring it onto the screen correctly? It's always interesting to look at old films every once in a while. There's often many things wrong with them, and it's fun to make fun of that, sure, but it's much more interesting to see what they got right. What still holds true even 70, 80, 90 years later. This is All About Eve, a film released in 1950 which won way too many awards to count. Among these are especially notable nominations and awards for Best Actress. The film tells the story of Eve, played by Anne Baxter, and Margot, played by Bette Davis. The latter, a well-established actress on Broadway, and the former a superfan who secretly wishes to be in the same position as Margot. Spoilers for a 70-year-old movie. Eve is revealed to be a con that basically lied to everyone about her life story, so that she can experience fame on the stage. This movie has some pretty obvious scathing reviews on the state of Broadway at the time. The end shots of this movie make these views all the more clear, using mirrors to reflect Eve onto another young woman who would begin the same tirades as her. This film mainly focuses on the effects of the theatrical world on actors, to the point that no actual theater is shown. But it does bring some interesting ideas about what a film can do with theater. For one, though this may be the style of the time, this film takes a lot of theater's elements and employs them into the cinematography and the acting. There are plenty of long, stationary or panning shots, which allow the actors spaced from the camera, letting the framing look more like a stage, and thus giving audiences the same element of a more real space like a stage could, such as being able to look at the elements beyond the director's main intentions. There is also the case of the actors in this film. People who are less established in this world act a lot more naturally than people who have been acting for a long time. We can see this especially in Eve's character. At the beginning of the movie, she acts timid and shyly, but at the end of the movie, after she's become an established actress, her actions become much bigger, her voice louder, and her emotions more present, often acting like how Margot did when they first met. Through these acting decisions, the film creates a world that feels larger than our own. That world isn't just large though, it's also a lot more engrossing. due in part to the cinematography choices we mentioned earlier, but also to the more grounded mise-en-scène elements that film allows for. By combining the positive elements of both theater and film, All About Eve certainly becomes one of the most theatrical films of its time. Its Academy Award for Best Motion Picture is a testament to that fact. When I make these videos, I like to show the merit of both mediums while still separated from each other. After all, their fusion would suck if not supported by a decent foundation. For this video, I went to a small Shakespeare show hosted at my university, just to get really engrossed in how theater works on its own. Wait, who's this guy? Oh, look at him go. He's definitely doing something there. The whole experience of acting was enlightening when taken from the perspective of film. We would often create small details that would go unnoticed by the average audience member, and we'd think about how a camera could point to those moments more easily. There are a lot of angles that could affect the perceived powers of certain characters, or sets and props that we could have had more of if the show was filmed on location instead of shown on stage. Yet, for anyone involved within the process of creating a performance on stage, it's sometimes much easier to use the medium of theater than film. The big change for an actor on stage is dealing with an audience during the show. Surprisingly, when funny things happen, people laugh, and an actor on stage has to navigate that laughter and other such reactions so as to not interrupt them. But the audience is also incredibly helpful when you're on stage. Often, when you're making a film or other such reproducible medium of story, you don't know how anyone will react. Will they like this piece? Will they hate what I did here? When performing on stage, you don't need to wait with anxiety to tell. You're told instantly by a director or an audience's reaction whether something works or doesn't. Actors also get plenty of time to ingrain themselves in their characters when doing theater, which makes performances so much more realistic. The actor has lived the experience of this character so many times that the character's responses begin to become their own, making whoever the audience sees that much more real. It always ends as a matter of preference, but I will always enjoy the larger-than-life, yet down-to-earth characteristics of a play more than a film. Oh, okay, I finally got it. Here, take this back. What is all this? Wait, did you do the video without me? Oh, you pieces of